Welcome back to our channel on this beautiful, crisp morning. We are thrilled to bring you the latest, most explosive updates from Genoa City, where the drama never sleeps and the betrayals run deeper than ever. Let us dive straight into the heart of the impending storm. For decades, the blood feud between the Newman and Abbott families has been the defining conflict of Genoa City, a bitter war fought in corporate boardrooms and personal relationships alike. This generational animosity has destroyed marriages, fractured alliances, and left a trail of broken hearts in its wake. Yet, despite the countless cautionary tales woven into their family histories, Kyle Abbott and Victoria Newman find themselves drawn into a dangerous, magnetic orbit that threatens to ignite a catastrophic explosion. The executive suites of Jabot, usually a bastion of Abbott power and strategic maneuvering, have suddenly transformed into the epicenter of a highly taboo and deeply reckless romantic entanglement. The air inside the office is thick with an unspoken, suffocating tension, a volatile mixture of corporate rivalry, suppressed desires, and the intoxicating thrill of crossing the ultimate forbidden line. Both Kyle and Victoria are acutely aware of the devastating consequences their connection could unleash, yet they remain paralyzed by the gravitational pull of their mutual rebellion against the suffocating expectations placed upon them by their respective empires. Initially, Victoria approached this dangerous dynamic with a calculated, almost predatory mindset, firmly believing she held the upper hand in their psychological chess match. She had convinced herself that her interactions with the younger, arrogant Abbott heir were merely an exercise in corporate dominance and personal manipulation. Her stated intention was to teach Kyle a harsh, unforgettable lesson about the true nature of power and the foolishness of challenging the Newman legacy. Victoria wanted to dismantle his ego, to prove that she was the absolute master of her domain, immune to the reckless charms that had ensnared so many others before her. She viewed Kyle as a pawn, a temporary distraction from the overwhelming pressures of her father's tyrannical control and the endless, exhausting demands of Newman Enterprises. In her mind, she was the seasoned predator playing with her prey, fully confident in her ability to walk away unscathed once she had proven her point and asserted her absolute superiority. However, the meticulously constructed walls of Victoria's emotional fortress begin to crumble under the weight of an undeniable, primal attraction. As they stand alone in the dimly lit Jabot office, the atmosphere shifts from a battleground of wits to a crucible of raw, unadulterated passion. The logical defenses Victoria had so carefully erected are systematically dismantled by the sheer intensity of the moment. The physical proximity between them becomes an agonizing torment, every stolen glance and accidental brush of their hands sending shockwaves of electricity through her veins. The corporate masquerade falls away, leaving behind two deeply flawed, profoundly lonely individuals, desperately seeking an escape from the suffocating confines of their family legacies. The tension in the room is no longer about power or dominance. It is a desperate, consuming hunger that defies all reason and logic, a magnetic force that pulls them inexorably toward the edge of a dangerous precipice. The inevitable breaking point arrives with a sudden, explosive force that shatters the fragile remnants of their self-control. The simmering tension finally boils over, igniting a passionate firestorm that consumes them both. They bridge the agonizing distance between them, their lips crashing together in a desperate, bruising kiss that speaks volumes of their shared rebellion and unspoken desires. This is not a gentle, romantic embrace. It is a frantic, consuming collision of two souls seeking refuge in the very danger they were warned against. The kiss is a profound transgression, a blatant desecration of the sacred boundaries that separate their warring families. In that singular, breathless moment, the Newman and Abbott empires cease to exist, replaced only by the intoxicating rush of adrenaline and the overwhelming heat of their forbidden connection. They are completely lost in the sensory overload of the encounter, willfully blind to the catastrophic fallout that is guaranteed to follow this monumental betrayal. As they finally break apart, gasping for air and struggling to process the magnitude of what they have just done, the heavy silence of the Jabot office descends upon them like a suffocating blanket. The immediate aftermath of the kiss is a chaotic whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Guilt, panic, and a terrifying sense of liberation war within their minds as they stare at each other, their eyes reflecting the profound realization that they have crossed a line from which there is no return. The intoxicating thrill of their rebellion is quickly overshadowed by the crushing weight of reality. They have just handed their enemies the ultimate weapon, a secret so explosive that it has the power to destroy everything they hold dear. The psychological burden of their actions settles heavily upon their shoulders, forcing them to confront the terrifying truth that their momentary lapse in judgment has irreversibly altered the trajectory of their lives and the fate of their respective families. The fragile, stolen moment is violently shattered by the sudden, commanding intrusion of Nikki Newman. The Newman matriarch, whose fierce protective instincts have been heightened by the recent traumas afflicting her family, steps into the Jabot office like an avenging angel. Nikki has weathered decades of deception, betrayal, and heartbreak, developing an uncanny ability to sense danger and uncover the darkest secrets hidden within the shadows of Genoa City. Her arrival is not a mere coincidence. It is the manifestation of a mother's relentless intuition, a primal instinct that has drawn her directly to the epicenter of this unfolding disaster. The air in the room instantly freezes as Nikki's sharp, unforgiving gaze sweeps over the scene, her experienced eyes missing nothing of the disheveled appearances, the heavy breathing, and the undeniable aura of guilt radiating from her daughter and the Abbott heir. The realization of what she has just interrupted strikes Nikki with the force of a physical blow, igniting a blazing, righteous fury deep within her soul. Her outrage is absolute and terrifying to behold, a volcanic eruption of maternal disappointment and fierce family pride. Nikki views this forbidden romance not merely as a lapse in judgment, but as a grotesque betrayal of the Newman legacy and a blatant insult to the decades of suffering inflicted by the Abbott family. She is horrified that her own daughter, the brilliant and capable heir to the Newman empire, would willingly debase herself by engaging in a sordid affair with the enemy. The sheer audacity of Victoria's actions leaves Nikki breathless with anger, her mind reeling from the catastrophic implications of this unholy alliance. She sees Kyle not as a romantic partner for her daughter, but as a toxic, manipulative predator, exploiting Victoria's vulnerabilities to strike a devastating blow against Victor and the entire Newman clan. Nikki's fury reaches a fever pitch as she ruthlessly dissects the profound, multi-layered depravity of Victoria's betrayal, focusing her wrath on the devastating impact this will have on Claire. Claire, who has already endured a lifetime of isolation and severe psychological trauma, had finally found a fragile sense of acceptance and grace within the Newman family, looking to Victoria as a mother figure and a beacon of stability. Nikki mercilessly points out the grotesque reality that Victoria is intimately involved with Kyle, the very man who recently shattered Claire's heart. The emotional devastation this will inflict on the young woman is unimaginable, a cruel and unusual punishment that Nikki refuses to tolerate. She accuses Victoria of profound selfishness, of completely disregarding the fragile mental state of a daughter who has already suffered so much, all for the sake of a fleeting, toxic thrill. The maternal condemnation does not stop there, as Nikki fiercely invokes the name of Summer Newman, adding another layer of horrific betrayal to Victoria's reckless actions. Summer, Victoria's own niece, has a long, painful history with Kyle Abbott, a toxic relationship that has left her deeply scarred and emotionally battered. Nikki demands to know how Victoria could ever look Summer in the eye again, knowing that she has surrendered to the charms of the man who caused her niece such profound agony. The tangled, incestuous web of family loyalties makes this romance not just inappropriate, but entirely repugnant in Nikki's eyes. She paints a devastating picture of the collateral damage Victoria is willfully causing, highlighting the utter destruction of trust and familial bonds that will inevitably follow the exposure of this sordid affair. Driven by a desperate need to contain this disaster and protect her family from total ruin, Nikki issues a harsh, non-negotiable ultimatum that sucks the remaining oxygen from the room. She stands before her daughter, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and profound sorrow, and demands that Victoria make an immediate, absolute choice. Victoria must sever all ties with Kyle Abbott, extinguishing this toxic romance before it can take root, or she will face severe, catastrophic consequences. Nikki makes it chillingly clear that she will not hesitate to use every ounce of her influence to strip Victoria of her power, her standing, and her future at Newman Enterprises. The threat is not an idle one. It is a solemn promise from a matriarch who is willing to destroy her daughter's career to save her soul and protect the family from the impending Abbott warfare. Throughout this brutal confrontation, Kyle Abbott remains a silent, defiant presence, his mind racing as he absorbs the full magnitude of Nikki's wrath. He is acutely aware of his role as the catalyst for this family implosion, yet he refuses to cower under the Newman matriarch's piercing glare. Kyle is a complex tapestry of conflicting motives. Part of him is undoubtedly driven by a dark, intoxicating desire to exact revenge against Victor Newman by corrupting his most prized possession, while another, more vulnerable part is genuinely captivated by the fierce, undeniable passion he shares with Victoria. As Nikki lays down her draconian ultimatum, Kyle realizes that he has successfully ignited a massive, uncontrollable war, a conflagration that will test the limits of his own ambition and his willingness to sacrifice everything for the sake of this forbidden connection. For Victoria, the weight of her mother's ultimatum is a crushing, agonizing burden that threatens to break her spirit entirely. She is suddenly paralyzed by a profound internal conflict, torn between the deeply ingrained loyalty to her family's empire and the intoxicating, rebellious liberation she found in Kyle's arms. The threat of losing everything she has tirelessly built at Newman Enterprises is a terrifying prospect, a devastating blow to her identity and her life's work. Yet, the thought of walking away from the raw, unbridled passion she just experienced feels like a betrayal of her own heart. Victoria is suffocating under the immense pressure of her mother's judgment, her mind desperately searching for a way to navigate this impossible labyrinth of duty, desire, and catastrophic consequences. As Nikki finally turns and sweeps out of the Jabot office, leaving behind a trail of devastation and unspoken threats, Victoria and Kyle are left standing in the smoldering ruins of her wrath. The heavy silence returns, but it is no longer charged with the electric anticipation of their earlier encounter. It is now fraught with the terrifying reality of their situation. They must now figure out exactly what this kiss means, not just for their own complicated emotions, but for the impending war that is about to engulf their families. The passion that ignited between them has irrevocably altered the landscape of Genoa City, setting the stage for a brutal, unforgiving conflict that will force them to question every loyalty and confront the darkest corners of their own desires. The ticking time bomb of their forbidden romance has been armed, and the countdown to absolute destruction has begun. While Nikki's ultimatum hangs heavily in the air, a far more terrifying threat looms on the horizon. It is only a matter of time before the ruthless, unforgiving patriarch of the Newman family discovers this ultimate betrayal. When Victor Newman learns that his daughter has surrendered to the Abbott heir, his wrath will be biblical, a scorched earth campaign that will spare no one. As Victoria and Kyle stare into the uncertain abyss of their shared future, one chilling question remains. Will their dangerous passion be enough to survive the apocalyptic storm that Victor is about to unleash? Or will this forbidden kiss be the catalyst that destroys them both forever?